In the heart of the Philippines' sprawling cities, beyond the shining malls and office towers, lies another world. A maze of shanties, narrow alleys, and tin rooftops that stretch endlessly toward the horizon. Here, life unfolds on the edge of survival, where every day is a test of endurance and ingenuity. Families live in homes built from scraps of wood and metal, often stacked precariously above flood-prone streets or beside garbage dumps. In these slums, poverty is not a temporary condition, but a way of life, shaping generations born into scarcity and resilience. Among the countless symbols of this struggle, none is more striking than pagpag, leftover fast food scraps salvaged from trash bins, washed, recooked, and eaten as a meal. It is a grim but powerful image of how the poor in the Philippines turn waste into sustenance, finding nourishment where others see only refuse. Yet, pagpag is more than just food. It represents a mindset, a desperate creativity, and a refusal to surrender to hunger. It tells the story of people who, despite having almost nothing, continue to live, laugh, and hope. The slums of the Philippines are filled with such stories, of hardship, yes, but also of an unbreakable human spirit that survives amid impossible conditions. To understand these communities, one must first understand the country they belong to, a nation of extremes, contrasts, and contradictions. The Philippines is an archipelago of over 7,600 islands scattered across the Pacific Ocean, stretching from the southern tip of Taiwan to the northern edge of Borneo. It is a land of breathtaking beauty, turquoise waters, white sand beaches, volcanoes and rainforests that teem with life. Yet, it is also a land of vulnerability to typhoons, earthquakes and floods that test the resilience of its people year after year. The country's geography has shaped its destiny. Its islands are separated by seas, rivers and mountains, giving rise to hundreds of ethnic groups and more than 170 languages and dialects. This diversity is both a source of cultural richness and logistical challenge, making national unity an ongoing effort. The official languages, Filipino and English, act as bridges between communities, but in homes, people still speak the tongues of their ancestors. Beneath the linguistic variety lies a shared warmth, hospitality, and deep sense of faith that define the Filipino identity. With a population exceeding 115 million people, the Philippines is the 13th most populous country in the world. The capital city of Manila is one of the most densely populated cities on Earth, with some districts housing over 200,000 people per square kilometre. In the bustling streets of Manila, it feels as though the country is always in motion. Jeepneys racing through traffic, vendors shouting out their goods, children weaving through crowds, and construction cranes rising above aging buildings. Yet, this dynamism masks a complex reality. Economic growth has not been equally distributed, and while the middle class is expanding, millions still live below the poverty line. Metro Manila alone, home to around 14 million people, has an estimated 4 million residents living in slum conditions. The population is young, the median age is around 26, and growing rapidly. In Manila's Dr. Jose Fabella Memorial Hospital, one of the world's busiest maternity facilities, a baby is delivered every 12 minutes, with thousands of those births to teenagers each year. The legal age of consent in the Philippines is just 12, among the lowest globally, while girls under 18 need parental permission for contraception or an HIV test, creating a dangerous gap between sexual permissiveness in law and restricted access to protection. Provinces like Palawan illustrate the scale. Roughly 1 in 5 teen girls is pregnant or already a mother, many from very poor communities with little sex education. Health staff note that when adult men cohabit with minors under 18, coercion charges can apply even if the girl technically meets the age of consent, yet families often decline to press cases because the partner takes responsibility. The history of the Philippines is one of struggle and adaptation. Before colonization, it was a collection of independent kingdoms and trading communities connected to the vast networks of Southeast Asia. In 1521, Ferdinand Magellan arrived under the Spanish flag, marking the beginning of more than 3 centuries of colonial rule. The Spanish introduced Catholicism, which became deeply woven into Filipino culture, influencing everything from festivals to family life. But they also imposed systems of control that concentrated land and wealth in the hands of a few, planting the seeds of inequality that still shape the nation today. In 1898, the Philippines declared independence from Spain, only to be taken over by the United States after the Spanish-American War. The Americans brought public education, infrastructure, and democratic institutions, but their rule was still colonial. After World War II and Japanese occupation, the Philippines finally gained full independence in 1946. The decades that followed were marked by political turbulence, corruption, and economic instability, but also by an enduring sense of hope and reinvention. The Filipino spirit is famously resilient, captured in the word bayanihan, which means communal unity and cooperation. It's the image of neighbors lifting a bamboo house together and moving it to safer ground, a metaphor for the nation's survival through hardship. Natural disasters, political upheavals, and economic challenges have never fully broken this collective will to persevere. From rebuilding after typhoons to standing up to authoritarian regimes, the people of the Philippines have always found strength in each other. Religion remains a cornerstone of Filipino life. The Philippines is the only predominantly Christian nation in Asia, with about 86% of the population identifying as Roman Catholic. Faith is visible everywhere, in small altars inside jeepneys, in rosaries hanging from rearview mirrors, and in processions that fill the streets with song and devotion. Festivals like Sinulog, Ati-Atihan, and the Feast of the Black Nazarene draw millions of participants, merging religious fervor with joyful chaos. Even in poverty, faith offers hope, a belief that tomorrow can be better even when today is uncertain. Economically, the Philippines has seen impressive growth in recent decades, driven by the service sector, remittances from overseas workers, and the rise of the business process outsourcing (BPO) industry. Millions of Filipinos work abroad as nurses, engineers, domestic workers, and seafarers, sending billions of dollars home each year. These remittances are a lifeline for the national economy, but they also reflect a painful truth. Many must leave their families to survive. The modern heroes, as they are called, sustain the country from afar, their sacrifices echoing in the empty seats at family dinners. The contrast between prosperity and poverty is perhaps most visible in the cities. Manila, the capital, is a metropolis of contradictions. Luxury malls beside crumbling tenements, high-end condominiums overlooking squatter settlements, and neon-lit highways that fade into shadowed alleys. The urban population keeps growing as people from rural provinces migrate in search of jobs and education. Yet, the cities often fail to provide enough housing or opportunities for all. This imbalance creates the conditions for slums to thrive, unplanned communities that grow wherever there is empty space. Millions are still left behind. They live in the margins of the cities, in the forgotten spaces where concrete meets decay. They are the invisible labourers, scavengers, and dreamers who keep the urban machine running but reap few of its benefits. Their lives are a daily negotiation with hunger, pollution, and uncertainty. And it is here in these slums that the contrast between progress and poverty is most painfully clear. Amid the flickering lights of the city skyline, the smell of cooking oil and garbage fills the air as families gather for their evening meal. Some will eat rice and sardines, others pagpag salvaged from restaurant waste, reheated to sustain another day. This is the other face of the Philippines, not the islands of luxury resorts and glowing advertisements, but the human struggle that underlies it all. To understand the Philippines fully, one must look here, into the narrow alleys and open hearts of those who live not in abundance, but in unyielding hope. The slums of the Philippines are places where life unfolds in narrow alleys and makeshift homes, where survival becomes a daily ritual rather than a guarantee. They rise like patchwork labyrinths on the edges of the nation's bustling cities, most notably in Manila, Cebu, and Davao, where the booming urban centers meet the harsh realities of poverty. The contrast between glittering skyscrapers and corrugated metal roofs is one of the most striking features of the country's social landscape. Yet within these crowded spaces, there exists a kind of resilience and human warmth that continues to defy the odds stacked against those who live there. Residents built structures layer by layer, using whatever materials they could find: plywood, old tires, tin sheets, and plastic tarps. Water was fetched from communal pumps or bought in small quantities from vendors. Electricity was often tapped illegally through tangled networks of wires, and sanitation was an afterthought. Despite the absence of basic services, these neighborhoods became living ecosystems full of small shops, schools, churches, and lives intertwined in endless motion. Life in the slums is marked by scarcity, but it is also defined by community. In narrow passageways barely wide enough for two people to pass, children play barefoot games of tag while mothers gossip over laundry tubs. Neighbors share rice when one family runs out, and they watch each other's children when someone goes to work. The people of the slums create their own informal economies that sustain them day to day. They sell food, recycle waste, repair broken appliances, and run small tricycle or jeepney operations to transport others through the chaotic streets. In places like Tondo, Payatas, and Smoky Mountain, these improvised economies have become a way of life. Smoky Mountain, once the most infamous landfill in Metro Manila, was home to tens of thousands of people who survived by scavenging through mountains of garbage. They collected recyclable materials like metal, plastic, and cardboard, earning a few pesos for every kilo sold to junk shops. The work was dangerous, dirty, and relentless, but it provided food and shelter when there were no other options. Even children joined in, carrying sacks larger than themselves, guided by instinct and necessity rather than choice. There are over 500 recognized informal settlements in Metro Manila, but many more unregistered clusters exist along rivers, railways, and dump sites. Most families in the slums live on less than 300 pesos a day, which is around $5, which is below the national poverty line. The smell of smoke and decay hung heavy in the air of such places, but so did the spirit of persistence. Families built lives amidst the stench, sending their children to nearby public schools when they could afford it, and holding on to small dreams of escape. Government relocation programs occasionally tried to move these communities to housing projects outside the city, but many returned to the slums. The new housing areas were often too far from jobs and schools, and without the networks of support they had in their neighborhoods, life there felt even harder. The slums also serve as a mirror reflecting the country's deep economic inequality. While the Philippines has experienced steady economic growth, much of the wealth is concentrated among a small elite. For the poor, even basic necessities like healthcare and education remain out of reach. The slums thus become both a refuge and a trap, a place where the poor can exist without paying rent, but also where they are forgotten by the state. Generations are born and raised in the same neighborhoods, with poverty becoming an inheritance passed down like an old family name. Yet within this hardship, the people develop remarkable skills in adaptation. Mothers wake up before dawn to cook rice and fried fish for their children's breakfast, carefully stretching ingredients to last the day. Fathers might drive tricycles or jeepneys for long hours, earning just enough to pay for rice, school supplies, and electricity. Teenagers sell cigarettes or bottled water in traffic jams, moving between vehicles with a mixture of courage and fatigue. Every peso counts, and the art of survival lies in stretching the little they have to cover endless needs. In some slums, people have turned their environment into an opportunity. The residents of Baseco compound, for instance, built a thriving community near the harbour. Despite the risk of floods and fires, they developed local businesses, community schools, and small food stalls. In places like these, the slum becomes more than just a symbol of poverty. It becomes a canvas for ingenuity and solidarity. There are community gardens, micro-lending cooperatives, and religious groups that bring people together in faith and shared purpose. Religion plays a central role in the life of many slum dwellers. Churches, mosques, and small chapels are scattered among the shanties, offering spiritual refuge amid material hardship. Faith gives people strength to endure what logic says they should not. Sunday services become moments of collective hope, where people sing hymns, share stories, and reaffirm their belief that better days will come. For many, this faith is the foundation upon which survival itself rests. The children of the slums grow up fast. They learn to navigate the complexities of survival long before they understand the meaning of privilege. Many drop out of school to help their parents earn money, while others find solace in community programs run by NGOs that provide free education and meals. Some young people find creative outlets in dance, art, or sports, dreaming of a way out through talent and determination. Their laughter, echoing through the narrow alleys, is perhaps the purest form of resistance against despair. The lack of sanitation and healthcare, however, remains one of the gravest challenges. In many slum areas, open sewers run alongside homes, and floods bring contaminated water into living spaces. Diseases like dengue, tuberculosis, and diarrhea spread quickly, especially among children. Clinics are few, and medicine costs more than most families can afford. The result is a cycle of illness and debt, where one health crisis can erase months of hard-earned savings. Despite this, mothers often improvise home remedies and rely on traditional healing methods to care for their families. Crime and violence also haunt the slums, often fueled by desperation. Unemployment, drug abuse, and lack of education contribute to an environment where petty theft and gang conflicts are common. During the height of the Philippine government's controversial war on drugs, many slum residents lived in constant fear. Police raids and vigilante killings left thousands dead, and families mourned loved ones who were caught in the crossfire. Yet even in such times, life continued. Women still cooked, children still played, and people still found reasons to smile. Some residents have found empowerment through activism and organisation. Community leaders advocate for land rights, better housing, and fair treatment from authorities. Non-governmental organisations partner with these leaders to provide education, healthcare, and microfinance programs. These initiatives, though small, often transform lives. A family that once scavenged garbage might now own a sari-sari store. A child once malnourished might grow into a community nurse. These are not miracles. They are victories born from persistence and solidarity. For many families, the dream of leaving the slum never fades. They imagine saving enough money to rent a small apartment, to send their children to college, or to migrate abroad for work. Overseas, Filipino workers often come from these same backgrounds, sending money home to help relatives build better lives. Their remittances sustain not just families, but entire communities, bridging the gap between poverty and possibility. The success of even one family member abroad can inspire many others to keep striving. Despite the government's efforts to improve housing conditions, the problem remains overwhelming. Urban population growth continues to outpace development, and land in cities is too expensive for the poor to afford legally. Many slums sit on danger zones, riverbanks, coastal areas, or private land, making residents vulnerable to eviction. When demolitions occur, families often lose everything they own. Some protest and resist. Others move to new informal settlements and start over. The fight for space and dignity never truly ends. But the Philippines is much more than just horrific slums, poverty, and inequality. The natural beauty of the Philippines is unmatched in its diversity. It is a land where volcanoes, beaches, mountains, and coral reefs coexist within a few hours' journey of each other. Palawan, often called the Last Frontier, is home to the surreal limestone cliffs of El Nido and the hidden lagoons of Coron, where turquoise waters shimmer like glass. These places feel untouched, as if nature herself decided to rest here in peace. The Banawe rice terraces, carved by the Ifugao people more than 2,000 years ago, show the harmony between humanity and the land. They rise like emerald steps into the clouds, a living monument to human ingenuity and respect for nature. In the Visayas, the chocolate hills of Bohol roll across the landscape in symmetrical perfection, turning brown during the dry season like mounds of cocoa. The country's geography is a poem written by earth and time. The Philippines is also one of the world's richest places for marine life. Beneath its seas live more than half of the world's coral species and thousands of kinds of fish. Divers come from around the world to explore the reefs of Apo Island, the underwater caves of Tabataha, and the shipwrecks of Coron from World War II. Snorkeling through these waters is like stepping into another universe, colourful, silent, and infinite. And yet, beauty in the Philippines is not only found in its landscapes. It thrives in its culture, in the fusion of traditions shaped by Malay roots, Spanish influence, and American adaptation. The result is a blend of East and West that feels seamless. A Catholic church might stand beside a traditional market where ancient superstitions still breathe, while English phrases mix with Tagalog and local dialects in conversation. The Filipino identity is fluid, open, and endlessly adaptive. Food is one of the country's greatest treasures. It tells the story of its history and its heart. Dishes like adobo, sinigang, and karkar reveal a culture that knows how to blend flavors as much as it blends people. Adobo, with its mix of vinegar, soy sauce, and garlic, is both sweet and tangy, comforting and bold. Sinigang, a sour soup made from tamarind, has a taste that feels like home on a rainy day. Nature remains close to every Filipino's heart, even those who live far from it. Mountains like Mount Pulag and Mount Apo attract hikers who climb to see the sunrise above the clouds. Rivers like the Lobok in Bohol and the Hinatuan Enchanted River in Mindanao remind everyone of the sacred connection between water and life. In places like Sagada, hanging coffins cling to limestone cliffs, whispering ancient beliefs about death as a continuation, not an end. The diversity of landscapes makes the Philippines one of the most complete travel destinations in Asia. Those seeking peace and paradise can lose themselves in the white sands of Boracay, where the sunsets look painted by hand and the ocean glows at night with bioluminescent magic. For explorers, the limestone cliffs of El Nido in Palawan offer hidden lagoons, secret beaches, and caves that open into worlds of blue silence. Each island seems to offer a new definition of beauty. For travelers looking for the pulse of modern life, Manila, the capital, provides an electric mix of chaos and charm. The city is a collage of old Spanish churches, modern skyscrapers, lively street markets, and endless traffic. Yet somehow it all moves to a single rhythm. Intramuros, the walled city built during Spanish colonial rule, stands as a living museum of history, its cobblestone streets whispering stories from centuries past. In contrast, Bonifacio Global City and Makati showcase the country's fast-paced modern energy, filled with restaurants, nightlife, and art. Beyond its natural beauty, tourism in the Philippines thrives because of its people. Filipinos have a unique ability to make visitors feel not like outsiders, but like long-lost friends. Hospitality here is not an act, it's a way of life. Strangers are greeted with "Kumain ka na?", which means "Have you eaten?", a question that doubles as a welcome and a gesture of care. It's not uncommon for travelers to be invited into homes for meals, laughter, and stories. One of the great strengths of Philippine tourism lies in its affordability. Compared to many tropical destinations, the Philippines offers world-class experiences at a fraction of the cost. Luxury resorts coexist with budget-friendly accommodations, allowing all kinds of travelers to enjoy paradise. Transportation, food, and entertainment are also inexpensive, giving visitors the freedom to explore more and stay longer. This balance between quality and cost makes it attractive for backpackers, families, and luxury travelers alike. The Philippines is also becoming a favorite for digital nomads and long-term travelers. With English widely spoken, friendly locals, and breathtaking scenery, it offers a perfect mix of comfort and inspiration. Places like Siargao, Dumaguete, and La Union have evolved into creative hubs where freelancers and entrepreneurs gather to work by the sea. Cafes with strong Wi-Fi and co-living spaces are now common in tourist areas, creating small global communities built around freedom and lifestyle. The Philippines is not a perfect country. It faces poverty, inequality, and challenges like any other. But its heart remains full, its people unbroken, and its beauty undimmed. It is a land of contrasts and harmony, of struggle and celebration, of simplicity and greatness. To love the Philippines is to love life itself, colorful, unpredictable, and infinitely resilient.